Hi guys. So welcome to day 4 of Savor at Home. We're moving back to Scotland today. We're going to try Caol Ila 12 year, which is an Islay single malt Scotch whiskey. And it's sitting at 43% ABV. Now you should be able to pick this up in most liquor stores for about 65 bucks. So not too expensive. Now, Scotch has a lot of rules for what you can actually put on the label, and the label says a lot. So Islay single malt Scotch whiskey. So Islay is the region that this Scotch is from, and Islay is one of the islands that's in the southwest part of Scotland. Now there's 5 or 6 different regions in Scotland. I'm uncertain about the 6th, if the islands are actually considered a region or not, or if it's just being talked about or whatever. But the other regions are that you may have heard of are the Highlands, the Lowlands, Speyside, and Campbelltown, and as I said, Islay. And then next on the label, single malt Scotch whiskey. So Scotch means it's from Scotland. Single malt means this is fermented, distilled, and matured all from one distillery. So it can be a blend of a number of different barrels of different ages, but it must be made at one distillery, so Caol Ila distillery. For it to be malt, it means it is fermented using 100% malted barley. Scotch, again, must be made in Scotland. Whiskey, yeah. It also needs to be matured for no less than 3 years in oak barrels. Typically, they're matured using used bourbon barrels or aged using used bourbon barrels. I believe Caol Ila is one of those. And it is, again, aged for no less than 12 years here because it's called 12-year-old. So everything that goes in here has been sitting in a barrel for at least 12 years. So Islay, as I said, is a region in Scotland that is notorious for smoky whiskeys. Now, the reason for that is because when whiskey was originally made in Scotland, and when you're malting the barley, you need some way to heat up the barley after it has germinated to kind of dry it out. And in Scotland, there's not a lot of trees, but there is a lot of this stuff called peat, and it is essentially just decaying shrubs and moss and sometimes seaweed, things like that in the ground that you can light on fire and then get heat from, and it produces a lot of smoke. So the smokiness that you're getting in Islay whiskeys, Islay scotches, is coming from the malting of the barley, which I find so fascinating because that's like step 0 in making booze, right? It's even before the fermentation part of the process, and it lasts through the entire way through. And you always can taste that, which is really fun. Another fun fact about Islay is that it did not have taxes on the whiskey for quite some time. So in 1644, I believe it was, that's when the government decided that Scotch was popular enough that we should start taxing it. And that meant Speyside, Highlands, Lowlands, they were all affected. But the people that live on Islay had not a wonderful reputation. They were known for being pretty harsh, if you will, and no one actually wanted to go enforce the tax to go shut down these illicit distilleries and things like that. So it took them about 153 years until they finally made it to Islay and said, like, all right, guys, we need to start enforcing taxes here. But yeah, anyways, so the peatiness that you're getting, the smokiness that you're getting is what Islay scotches are really known for. And they don't have to be peaty, but they typically are. And Caol Ila is one of those that definitely carries that peaty characteristic to it. Let's see if there's anything else I wanted to say. Nope. Let's dive in. All right. So you can already tell by looking at this that it is much lighter than the bourbon that we had last night, right? Oh, and Caol Ila, for the first video that I did, tasting Flaming Heart by Compass Box, it's a majority Caol Ila in the mix. So pretty light. Again, this is because they almost always use used bourbon barrels where you're stripping out those tannins initially, those polyphenols initially from the wood, and this gives it more of a mellow maturation. Also, it's a lot colder in Scotland, so those maturation reactions are occurring a lot slower than they would in, say, the US. But right off the nose, you'll be able to get that smokiness for sure. There's a little bit of brine to this as well, some salty savoriness that comes through. But if you really spend the time to nose this, you should be able to pick up some sweet notes, maybe some honeys and vanilla, and maybe some like a pear thing, like a roasted pear, some pine nuts. That's what I'm getting. But yeah, let's go ahead. And once you spend the time to nose this, you can go ahead and take a sip. It's got a lot of smokiness to it, but there's some really nice floral notes in here as well. It's pretty delicate for being so smoky, which is quite interesting. Yeah, everything that you're getting, all the other flavors that you're getting are kind of in the background where the smokiness comes through very strongly. But I mean, if you enjoy a delicious smoky whiskey, this is really, really nice. And if you enjoy, say, mezcals, then moving to Islay scotches tends to be a pretty easy transition, which I find interesting. Yeah, there's some lingering like roasted pine nuts or peanut brittle or something. I can't really put my finger on it. That's really nice. But yeah, this is a very nice whiskey, one of my faves, and not all that expensive. So enjoy, guys. Thanks.